how many people are with us today. I think it speaks to the fact that this is a very important issue. Our parent population, but I think the greater community as well. Anybody who drives around for any amount of time in PG will likely see small bands of people on e-bikes, not necessarily adhering to the rules of traffic themselves. So one of the reasons to discuss this today. On a quick note, you guys are going to see some Narcan over there as well. We had a wonderful assembly with your students from Dr. Casey Grover. Very powerful, very impactful stuff. The kids had great questions. And then we debriefed in our PE department the day after, the Monday following, to make sure that they understand this is something that we really need them to know. And it's going to be a continuing conversation. We are scheduling Dr. Grover in January, specifically to talk about refusal statements. So these are statements that students have in their back pocket when offered something that they can just whip out without thinking, say, I don't want to smoke because I have asthma, or something like that. Those skills that they're going to need because they almost certainly will encounter something like that in the future. We want to prepare them. Number two, we are going to partner with some folks from Santa Cruz County on bike safety. That's going to come up on October 28th and 29th. And that is going to be education driven through our PE departments. And it's a wonderful organization that really understands the magnitude of what we're dealing with. And so we'll have more information as that comes. That's going to be direct to your student. So without further ado, first of all, I'd like to recognize Dr. Adamson, who's joining us, our fearless leader, as well as trustee/mom, Jenny. Not in that order, mom/trustee. And finally, it's my pleasure to introduce our Pro Chief of Police today. Yes, absolutely. So we're going to start off with the chief had the opportunity to kind of enlighten us a little bit at a management meeting. So we'll start off with kind of going over some of those things. Then we kind of want to open it up to questions. I think that's going to be the part that's vital. I'm going to be a note taker. Any questions we can answer, I'm going to record those and get that information broadcast on that schedule. So, Chief, go ahead and take it away.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. I think before we put the cart in front of the horse, just kind of a little housekeeping, a little background. I have a full bio on LinkedIn. I love connections, so look me up on LinkedIn if you want to connect. This is my fourth agency and almost 27 years of service. Prior to that, I served 8 years in the U.S. Marine Corps. And so I have a pretty diverse background when it comes to, kind of understanding the municipal function of law enforcement, which includes a 3-year tour as an SRO in Shasta County, where I served 15 campuses during that time as a single SRO assigned to schools there. And then during my time as the chief up on the North Coast in Fortuna, putting together an SRO program that was, kind of nationally recognized. And so, out of those SRO programs, you kind of learn the things that work and the things that don't. A lot of it is trial and error and just, kind of being adaptable to different communities and the needs of the community. And so I was appointed here as the chief in March 2025, so about 6 months ago. And it's just been a real pleasure to, get to know the community and also just kind of be invited into the district and be able to kind of serve, your students and the families and just, the bigger district portion of the community. And so really today is going to be about being in the hot seat and just being transparent and answering any questions that you may have. Any question is okay. I mean, it's a safe spot. So if you have a question that you want answered, I'm going to answer that to the best of my ability today. But before I do that, just a little bit of an update. So, one of the things that the city of Pacific Grove did not have when I arrived in March was an ordinance that, covered e-bike regulations. It covers some of those more administrative tools or enforcement tools that the PD can use for, things that might kind of help keep better control of some of the things that are going on. And I know that, we see a lot of dangerous behavior out there. We get reports of dangerous behavior as far as the e-bikes and the e-scooters. And, unfortunately, we started the school year with a collision this year. And so We are essentially trying to educate families and students to the very best of our ability. That has included forums such as this, which are more community centric. I call them town halls, or just getting together for coffee and a conversation. A few weeks ago, we did, it's just kind of more, what's the word I'm looking for? Holistic. I had a few of my guys go up to the high school at the request of the principal over there, and we did, instead of a fireside chat, we did a bike rack chat. And so, just engaging the students and, talking to them about their equipment and, responsible riding and operation of e-bikes and things of that nature. And so, again, we are trying to accomplish both aspects of safety, which, we really look at the two primary portions being education and enforcement. And so we feel like we've gotten to a point during this particular school year where we have got the education out there, and citations, a little bit of enforcement is starting to occur. And so that's, just one aspect of traffic enforcement. We are still dealing with parking issues in and about, pickup and drop off, and different campuses have more significant problems than others do. But we are deploying community service officers. I was out there Friday with one of my CSOs at campus, and unfortunately, again, it was a situation where we feel the educational component has been met. I'm on the rebound from sinus infection, so bear with me. But those tickets are starting to be issued, and so we are looking primarily for compliance through education. It's not a pleasure for us to enforce or write tickets. It's not something that makes us happy. The revenue that is generated off tickets for like vehicle code violations, I mean, we see a very, very small percentage of that. Most of that goes to the state of California, DMV, Air Ops, or CHP. Like, that's what it is. So we're hoping that educational component will get us the compliance and the safety that we need. But when that doesn't work, we have to turn to the enforcement. So you may see that ramping up a little bit. Hopefully nobody in here has received a ticket. If you have, that's just kind of the stage that we're in at this point. And so, again, with education, we've updated literature within the department, both, on social media and also available resources for parents or students to come in the lobby and get, what the different rules or the breakdown is on e-bike safety, electric scooters, things of that nature. And so enough about that. I'll answer questions about that. But other things that we're doing is, it's just, working with the administration, with the district. Dr. Adamson and I are probably on each other's favorite phone list by now. We talk daily, sometimes several times. So, being able to identify problems early on and come up with a proactive approach to them is key to success. And I feel like communication between Dr. Adamson, her staff, and my department has been very, very good. So we hope to continue that. Other things, just kind of thinking creatively about things that we haven't done here in the city before. We have a butterfly parade coming up. As you know, there's a bazaar that follows. PD will have a safety booth. I will actually be in the safety booth. As soon as I'm done leading the parade, I'm going to hustle over, jump in the booth. I got an officer and one of my support staff, professional staffers, that's going to help out. But we're going to be there the whole day, and really that is just to, be kind of a one-stop shop for any questions that students and parents have about safety. It doesn't have to be e-bike related. It can be anything you want to ask. I come from a background where, I spent almost 5 years undercover in the narcotics field. We developed programs up north for opioid awareness, fentanyl, all the stuff that kind of signs and symptoms to look for, things to be on the lookout for with the youngins. And so, any question that you have, I'll step off to the side if it's private, or, you just have a question, I'm there to answer it. And like I said, I'm going to be there till we're done at 1 o'clock, I think it is. So, yeah, no, I'm actually looking forward to it. So it'll be a first time, and so something that we're hoping to continue. We're looking at some more safety related presentations and things for early spring. And so, we are doing things differently, and in my opinion, change is good. Just because it's the way we've always done it doesn't make it right. That's what I tell my guys all the time. They'll tell you. So being creative and addressing the issues that are current is where we have to make that change. And so,
And if I could jump in real quick,
Yeah.
this is not a law enforcement only issue. It's not an issue that only hits the schools. It really takes triad, it takes community involvement too. I think with those three entities working together, I think we can keep kids safe. And I think that's part of what we're going to try and get out of this. But really getting that out to the community, really letting families know as we see their kids speeding off on those things without helmets, letting them know, taking pictures of it and sending it to them, saying this is what's going on. It's going to take everybody, and so that's why I'm super glad that you're here. So, without ado, let's open it up to questions. Come on now. There's something called teacher wait time. There we go. Yeah.
We got the question. But so one, before we running a trail, we're gonna have to go back out and figure out how to redo it today. But two, we don't need the parameters of our practice. I find myself having to running with the kids, stand up at a certain point because they're going so fast, you're turning corners, they're gonna hit. A lot of the kids don't have helmets on. I approached them about that. They become very consistent. So that would be an area of concern for me as well. Not quite sure how to keep them off the trail because it's really fun, but it's also one ruining what we built and super dangerous.
So it's a great comment, and I think the question in there is like, how do you deal with the situation in the moment? And so, we all know what PD staffing looks like right now. That's another update that I give, and I don't talk about this as a woe is us type of thing. It's actually more optimistic than that. We are on a very good line. One of the promises that I made the community and the council when I was appointed in March is that for the first time since COVID, I would ensure that the police department was fully staffed. And we're on a good line for that, a good marker to actually accomplish that goal in early spring. So while staffing continues to be an issue, we're also creative about the way that we deploy. And so if you have something like that going on district property, then just use your cell phone and call the non-emergency line. Okay, our cops, if they're not busy, on something that's a little more high priority, and I always use like, fatal collision or domestic violence or assault or something that, is really requiring the presence of more than one officer to handle that situation. We will respond. And so, I have established in my mind a very good track record because the majority of the calls that have come from the district this year, I've handled personally. I'm responding personally. One of the comments that I made last time was it's important to me that calls for service at the district get handled in a timely fashion. And if my guys and gals are busy, I'm getting up and I'm coming to the campus, or I'm going to come meet with a parent or administrator who needs advice, or conduct a welfare check, or go counsel students that are riding the e-bike on private property when they shouldn't. I mean, it could be, depending on where it is, construed as a form of trespass. So
also too, it could fall under what's called ingress egress. That's when students are going to school or leaving from school to go home, and there's that window of time when the district we are able to do something about it. I was actually called to that very site about 3 weeks ago, and as soon as they saw me walking this way, I don't know if they like me, but they totally took off.
Threatened to call you.
Oh, yes. And to the extent possible, I do want you to do that. Now I've got meetings and all this kind of stuff, but I really want to make myself, because that's our awesome kids who actually created, worked their butts off to that trail, and it makes me very frustrated the fact that these kids are coming, undoing what you guys have done.
I super frustrated. We spent $500 to redo the trail. I ran it yesterday. Friday.
Yeah, that's right.
And I would just say too, I'm very empathetic empathetic to that. For those of you that don't know, I spent a large part of my adult life as a head varsity baseball coach up in Northern Cal high schools. You know, me and my assistant coaches put so much work into that field, and every once in a while we would get people that would come and vandalize, you know, and ride motorcycles, things like that on the baseball diamond. And it was a full Saturday and Sunday and money out of our own pocket to repair it. You know, so I am very empathetic.
We have a question online.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Hi, Julie.
Hi, if you could please, the in-person questions we couldn't hear. Somebody was able to tell us what it was, but if you could repeat the in-person question and then answer it, that would be helpful. I really appreciate you being here. The biking thing is very scary around town. My comment though is a little bit non-school related. Just speeding around town. I don't really see enforcement. I rarely see cars pulled over in town, and I just wanted to express my concern and hope that you will enforce that a little bit better than past administrations. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. So to answer that question, and you know, basically her question was, you know, towards, you know, philosophy on enforcement for traffic related things. So I come from a very, again, my background is very enforcement heavy when it comes to traffic. In the last year, in a comparison study with our neighboring cities, Pacific Grove is writing 4 sites to every one that is coming out of cities to our left and our right. So, you know, general misnomer that I heard when I came to Pacific Grove was that, you know, tickets have been on the decline. Whether that's true or not with previous administration, all I can kind of speak to is where we're at over the course of the last year. And so 4 to 1 is pretty, it's huge. I mean, when you're writing 4 tickets to every one that's coming out of neighboring jurisdictions, I mean, we're definitely out there issuing those citations. And, you know, again, staffing could be a factor as far as the, you know, amount of officers and cars that the community is seeing on the street. But we try to keep that minimum staffing, and we try to keep the sergeants keep their shifts proactive during the day and during the night when they're not dealing with calls for service. So yes, so there's not a question with that statement. We will continue to, especially when it comes to traffic, be very proactive in enforcement. I can tell you that during the month of October, it will definitely be realized in this community. You will see an uptick of law enforcement for the purpose of traffic-related enforcement. And so, you know, we also partner with our allied agencies that have STOP team, which is a traffic enforcement prevention team that kind of rotates through the jurisdictions. And so we will also have them present during the month of October. So probably a huge uptick in ticket writing for October.
Well, I noticed that when you guys deploy the speedometers, the big
Yeah, the
orange
radar.
lights,
Yep.
I mean, you can't not look at them. And you start gauging what you're doing. And so I think it's a wake up call for some people, especially in the mornings, especially on Forest, where they are tearing down that street. And for whatever reason, they don't necessarily know how fast they're going. So when it pops up with 36, they should be slowing down at that high traffic time too.
What a lot of folks may not know about that radar trailer too is that we have a covert mode on there. So if we're getting multiple complaints of speeding in a different area, oftentimes we will set that radar trailer to, I call it like stealth or covert mode, where it won't show you how fast you're going because we're looking for data-driven evidence that an area is problematic for speed. Just as a little kind of side note, our officers that enforce speed, they go to specific training and they have to successfully estimate speed, which is a little more difficult than people may think it is. The perception that a vehicle is traveling at a certain speed takes a little bit of practice. And so they obtain that training and then come back and they use that in conjunction with their radar or LiDAR readings. And so we do deploy that radar trailer just to get, again, the data and the evidence that we truly have a problem in that area. And so if you're passing by that radar trailer and it's not giving you a readout, it's because we're collecting data.
That's even scarier.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
On that topic, I wanted to, so my son is going to the bus stop on Fillmore Avenue, and people speed by them so fast. In the morning, I stand up there with, people are going, it's a 25, people are going maybe like 40, some people are going 50. I did call the station on emergency, and I don't know if someone talked to this one specific driver, but, thank you if you did, because she was a danger, and, she had to slow down. But, she's not the only one. So I just wanted to make, you guys aware that some are at, like, scared. I don't want to come out there by myself.
Where's your cross street on the Sillamar? for the most
Arena,
So for the folks at home, there was another question about speeding in town, specifically on Asilomar, where people are going way too fast. Yes,
One thing that I'm really concerned about is where Cal Am and the high school parking lot. When kids are, like, it's the Forest Grove High School parking lot, Cal Am. When kids are crossing there, it's so dangerous, and I've almost hit kids, and I'm paying attention just because you're looking at this car, this car, this car, this car. And then it's like elevated because you're going up the hill and you can't see, and kids are like trying to cross. And so many times I have seen kids almost get hit, and I'm so surprised someone hasn't been hit yet. But is there eventually a way to get like flashing crosswalk or something there? Because kids are kind of crossing lower in the street, higher in the street, all over the place trying to get across, and it's so kids too. Yeah, like high school or in going to school and gonna be late. Yeah, it's pretty. And it's elementary school, high school, yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah, the elementary for experts.
Which isn't illegal anymore.
so for the folks at home, we had a comment regarding the rear parking lot between Forest Grove and Pacific Grove High School, and how students are just with reckless abandon crossing the street, and even seasoned safe drivers are having a difficult time, trying to attempt to navigate that area. So
And, I'm a big fan of not only the lit crosswalks, but also up north, we started installing kind of the chirp thing. And so I think those infrastructure features are important for our students and our community. And I think we're going to have several areas as we kind of.
Hi, I'm trying to get to the library it's Debbie Beck rather than watching it on my phone.
Hi, Debbie Beck.
we're waiting for you, Debbie.
As I was saying, I think there's going to be several areas as we move forward as a community that we're going to identify where infrastructure improvements can be made to make things safer, as well as where we can target enforcement. And so I don't know, is everybody, raise show of hands, or is everybody pretty familiar with the traffic safety committee process that we have here? Okay. So traffic safety committee is where pretty much all of these things start, whether it's infrastructure or problematic areas for enforcement. And so the traffic safety committee is, you go on the city website, it's got its own link, and you can actually submit an email regarding suggestions for that infrastructure improvement and or enforcement areas. And so traffic safety will kind of visit those issues on a monthly basis, and then recommendations go through the council. But yes, I agree with you. I think it would be great. Essentially, it is a council function, though, to make that final decision.
If I can add too, this is vital information for the high school to know as well. And so I'll speak with their principal, I'll convey your concern. And I know they have a couple campus monitors. I'm not going to say that I'm making this decision by any means, but it would be a good place to deploy them, especially during heavy traffic times, just to kind of keep the kids in line and almost be a little bit of like a crossing line, something.
Yeah.
So.
Lucy Hazen.
Hi, Lucy.
Hey there, thanks so much. I do want to echo that street behind the high school. That is pretty dicey. So just a thumbs up on that, please. Attention there would be awesome. My question is more about back to the e-bikes and e-scooters. I would love a clarification. To me, there's a very wide range of what's out there, from like super low powered things to like motorbikes, basically. So if you could speak to what's allowable, what's not, or I don't know, anything else, given of course that they're wearing the proper safety gear. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for the question. It was on e-bike statute or requirements. So there are essentially three types of e-bikes. They're categorized type 1, type 2, type 3. For type 1, type 2, which are the lower speed e-bikes, it is the same rules and regulations that would apply to a minor riding a bicycle. There is no change. So the helmet law is the same. Everything else about the rules of the road and operating the e-bike are the same. For a type 3, which is the equipment that can go faster, for a better lack of terminology, there are age requirements for that, as well as helmet requirements as well. So for example, for type 1 and type 2, 17 and under have to wear a helmet just like they would on a bicycle. But even an adult who is operating a type 3 e-bike is required to wear a helmet on the road. And so it's, again, unlawful to modify those e-bikes. There's statute that speaks to modification. Unfortunately, it's a losing battle for us because you go on a website for a lot of these e-bike or electric scooter manufacturers, it'll tell you how to disengage the governor or make a simple modification so that the bike or the device will actually operate faster than intended. So type 3s are really what we're concerned about for students, because again, you do have to be 16 years of age to operate them, and especially when you're talking about operating them on a public roadway. And all these parking lots are defined as off-highway public parking facilities, so the rules still apply there.
It's a great question.
So, I don't know about this, but if they're not wearing a third kit, they're not wearing a helmet. They're using one of the like three, like they're doing like what happens? Like what do you do? Like I talked to the kid as they're doing what they're doing, like every single day. They just say talk to mom. Or
Yeah, so see, you understand what we're up against. You're doing the same thing. You're doing the same thing that we do on a daily basis, which is we try the education route, right? When that education route fails, we are only left with enforcement at that point. So what happens? It's a citation is issued, and I can speak to this with firsthand experience. We will contact the parent and or take the child home and have a conversation with the parents and say, look, you can't do this. And, after that conversation, it's just, in the past, we have relied solely on what the statutes in the vehicle code require, which is for sworn officers to on view the violation. It's an infraction. We have to see it happen. And so that's why I say it's so vitally important that if you are dealing with this on a repeat issue, or you're not getting anywhere with those conversations and you see it happening, call the non-emergency line. We may not get, and I'm just being on the level with everybody. We're not going to get to 100% of them. You and I both know that, but we're going to get to some. And sometimes some is enough to at least start spreading the message that if you're contacted by PGPD, you're going to get a ticket. So 1 second. And I was just going to say, on the kind of the coattails of that comment in question is, what I brought up before. I've been working on an ordinance. The city did not have an ordinance for e-bikes over the course of the last month and a half. And ordinances they're nothing new to me. I wrote them up north. But they require first and second reading through council. Right now, I have a draft form that will go for discussion at the second council meeting in October. The point and the kind of the point to it coming in front of the community as a discussion is to get input, right? So we want more tools. I want more tools for my officers in their toolbox for dealing with the e-bike issue. And some of that is going to be administrative relief. It's going to carry an educational component and diversion from the chief, which is kind of a program that's been used before and has been successful. But if I have one of my sergeants or an officer write a ticket to a child for unlawful e-bike or e-scooter operation, I can meet with those parents and the child or the student, and I can essentially offer them, hey, you can attend an e-bike course with your student or child, or you can pay the fine. It's a one-time diversion, but it reinforces the educational component and the thought process that, education is a key component to safety for the community and for our children. So the fines for administrative sites are called out in the municipal code, and it depends on how many violations you have in a year. So I don't have the information, but out of recollection, for example, I think it's something like 100 for the first violation, maybe like 250 or 3 for the second, and then more for the third if it's within a year. And this ordinance will also give us an authority to seize those e-bikes. I mean, look, if I got to take them, I'm going to take them.
So, Chief, really quickly, when you do address the city council with this, is there any need for allies to be speaking during that time?
I think it would be good, right? I mean, we're all in this together. I mean, you guys have heard me talk for 6 months about community-centric policing, which, I don't use the old term community-oriented. I use community-centric because it's a term I believe in. I believe we're all invested, and it's all of our responsibility to promote the safety and welfare of the community. And so this is not adversarial. I don't have a lot of folks coming up to me going, oh, you don't need the ordinance, Chief. We don't have an e-bike problem here. Like, I think we all agree that there is somewhat of an issue that we're concerned with. And so I see the ordinance as something positive, especially just reinforcing what I just said. I have the option as the chief to offer diversion instead of a fine. Go with your student to online, whatever, go take an e-bike course, show me the proof, and we'll just call this a learning experience, right? So everything is built in. There's nothing negative to it. And so we want to be proactive. If parents want to come and speak and talk about, the fact that they feel like this ordinance could be of some assistance to the police and the community, absolutely. More than welcome, and I welcome it personally. So.
Okay, we've got a question online.
Ashley?
Hi, Ashley.
Ashley?
I did a little digging in the municipal code and I found that, it seems like right now there exists one that says no person shall be riding on sidewalk. And so I'm wondering if we could consider crosswalks an extension of sidewalk and then have someone posted between 3 p.m. and 3:22 p.m. outside the middle school. And you can kind of nab some of these folks and they can kind of realize and be educated, because it is chaos in front of the middle school. And it was really, I thought that was valuable. You told us that an officer has to see it. So we have some fish in a barrel at that time. And yeah, so just like it's a start, I did some time for about 3 months volunteering as a crossing guard at the 5-way area at the high school when we came back from COVID. And I saw that there is actually a lack of education for parents educating their students that when you go through a crosswalk, even a non-motorized bicycle, it's really important to walk it through.
Right.
Because as drivers, we are trying to, process all this information, and walking it slows that information down, right? Because we want to respond and put the brakes on. And now with these e-vehicles, they're going even faster. So even just for me, like starting with crosswalk education, and I think that could maybe be something. And I would volunteer to stand on the corner and like help you guys or something. I don't know, there has to be just like a start, right? Like just a start. And I think that there are parents even in this room and listening that don't realize you really should best practice walk through a crosswalk.
Yeah,
So,
it's great information and you're factually absolutely correct. It's one of the hardest things.
I bet.
It's one of the hardest things for us, as well as being a chief and a former baseball coach. I'm also a father of four, right? And so it's really, really hard, especially like with the littles,
Yeah.
when it's like, you know, the vehicle code specifically says if you're operating a bicycle or e-bike, you got to follow the rules of the road. So by statute, it is unlawful to operate it on a sidewalk, and you're not supposed to ride through a crosswalk. You're supposed to get off and push it through,
Yeah.
or either follow the same rules as the cars. But parents often feel like, especially with the littles, that the sidewalk is the safest place for them. If they're on a little bicycle or something, and I see it all the time, and it's like it's a judgment call, right? Whether we try to have that conversation, but that's one that really doesn't go over too well
Yeah.
if you're picking up what I'm laying down. And so, because it's like as a parent, we want to do the safest thing for our kid.
Yeah.
And that sidewalk is like viewed as, it's almost a refuge, right? But yes, technically, is it against California Vehicle Code statute? Yeah. Cannot operate a bicycle on the sidewalk.
And as like a district, we do have crossing guards. So if the crossing guards could start educating,
Yeah.
I mean, like when I was a volunteer, I was like, walk your bike, please, and then I didn't take it any further because what are you going to do? But it's just something.
I think it may be helpful just kind of with the alleyway that we're headed down currently is that, the district and the city for the last 2 months are also kind of popping the lid on the can as far as safe routes. And so we're looking at, what that build out looks like from the different campuses and, kind of what our options are there. So I think safe routes it's huge. I mean, to have some identified pathways where, because other issues that have been brought up from like Robert Down, and same kind of thing with the sidewalk in front of the middle school is, you come off of Spruce back there, and I don't know where it is, 13th, I think it goes all the way through 12th, 13th. And so you have the e-bikes and the bikes coming down that hill, the traffic is all going towards them. So coming up with some sort of design where everything there is circular, like maybe not having the bikes ingress directly down 13th Street. Because again, hard to see, they're coming downhill.
Yeah.
Quick rate of speed. What are the drivers doing? They're dropping off their kids, picking them up. You have other traffic, they're distracted. Like it's not chaotic, but it's not sterile either.
Sure.
I think a lot of parents really come and help out with that, because if you come on a Friday at 3:05 and you'll see kids driving with another kid, not wearing a helmet, going to Starbucks,
Oh, yeah.
on the sidewalk.
It's
Right.
right.
So like, hey, or like the little kids need to move because like it's not great.
I see it every morning too, and especially the high school, they'll cut through the Starbucks parking lot down there. And, by the time I get around the corner, it's like they're gone. It's that quick. I mean, so I am definitely, it's not falling on deaf ears. I see it myself.
We've got a question online.
Actually got a
Oh, he's-
license.
Gentlemen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, my comment actually piggybacks nicely onto what we've just been discussing. I'd like to highlight Spazier Avenue as just a real potential problem area. It comes right as the kids, have just crossed the crosswalk on Forest, and it's a moment of revelry for them. What starts off, they're on the sidewalk. What bothers me the most is that they yell at the other kids to get out of their way. And even just on Friday, it wasn't my kids, but I tried to stop them and tell them that they don't have right of way on the sidewalk. And they, I'm just this little voice coming into them. I mean, they just kept going. But on Spazier, they're like pulling one another with a rope. They stand up on their bike seats. They're two on a bike. Sometimes neither of them have helmets. And to be clear, it's not all of them. But it is some of them, and it's the same ones every time. But it's an accident waiting to happen for them. Of course, that's my first, comment as a mom. But I also would like some care for that neighborhood. There's a lot of older people who live in that neighborhood, people who walk around the block from Canterbury Woods, and they're going too fast. So I really, they need to be educated that they don't have right of way on the sidewalk. And then, everything else is just what everybody else has been saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, Kelly. Oh. Kelly, I'm gonna pull your question, sorry. Go ahead, sir.
I guess comments and questions. It sounds like, you've been laying a lot of the groundwork with the community, doing the bike rack talks and things like
Yeah.
that. And I think one of the blessings here is that we do have a small community with a lot of parents involved, and we do know a lot of kids by face. My nephews, who are absolute madmen, would be on their stuff. They live in Park City, and it's developed into a very adversarial relationship between the people with a non-developed prefrontal cortex and law enforcement. And as we're kind of moving towards more enforcement, is the policy going to be basically like, hey, we're like, if the kid runs, because some of them do, we're all kids once, and it's kind of a fun game for them to outrun the cops. Is it going to be basically kind of a back off, hey, we're going to find you there, because that's where I think it could really get ugly in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, that's
That's
great.
I know that's a tough.
No, it's really not. I mean, it's a great question. For those of you online, the question was related to, whether the police are going to pursue, a kid on an e-bike that takes off, or there's just too much liability and risk involved in that. And so, the laws of the state of California and our policies and procedures, law enforcement organizations have changed over the years. And so, that pursuit kind of behavior is really balanced on things that are more serious in nature, felony crime, things where, we have to essentially make a split-second decision in the moment, whether pursuing the offender is safer for our community than, trying to back off and use a license plate description, witness statements to identify the person and go criminal complaint versus an arrest, which is just a process we go through to get a warrant later, right? And so, the policy of this department, we're an accredited agency. We're the only accredited law enforcement agency on the peninsula. We're a CALEA, if you want to explore that, CALEA, accredited agency. And so, all of our policies are accredited, and our pursuit policy is very strict in what we engage in. Chasing, children on e-bikes is just not going to happen. Yeah, not under my watch.
They're not going far.
Louis, anyone online? Nope. Okay, Kelly, you're up.
So my question is geared more towards. And I know, I think that the CHP is on this program. Is there anything similar to?
I mean, I can speak to it a little bit.
Online. Yeah. So the question was, a proud parent of 2 high school students, wondering if there were any programs akin to every 15 minutes that our police department happens to run, or if that's more of a high school administration question.
And so a little bit of background, the last every 15 minutes I actually administered was right before I came to PG up on the North Coast. So very familiar with the program. I ran it in Humboldt County, Shasta County as well. It's, one of my favorite programs, to be honest. I think it is one of the most kind of realistic forms of education, and just, presenting that mindset of, the destruction to families and lives that DUI driving can bring. DUI alcohol, DUI drugs, it doesn't matter. Typically this is a program that has high cost financially to it. And so, the last couple of times that I've run it, there's been a partnership between the local police department who facilitated, the California Highway Patrol, the district, and the Office of Traffic Safety for California through grants. And so sometimes those grants are more available some years than others. But, you know, it's definitely not trauma informed. This is a realistic look at, you know, what happens when, you know, fatalities happen and things happen related with, you know, DUI crashes and sort. So, you know, it's really something that I think would be more of a collaborative kind of decision-making thing going forward between, you know, the district and, you know, the police department. I mean, just to kind of find out if that's a good fit for the district. But
I think.
I mean, the last grant that I got from OTS and CHP, which was a year ago up in Fortuna, I think there's still, you can go on the socials up there and kind of look at some of the videos that we did. And the keynote that I delivered after every 15, but I think our grant was somewhere in the neighborhood of 30K.
It's going before a board that is full district. So then have to go. Because I do believe the city. I appreciate the fact that you're here, but at the end of the day, are on top of the street. Another thing that's come up, and I heard you say about the sidewalk, but I do have a third grader, so Barbara got to. Well, I was not. Because we don't have a safe route to school, and we have been working on this since 2016. So we're going into 10 years trying to have a safe route to school. And so we do live right off the Pine. It is wide. I follow him on foot. And so he goes right on the sidewalk because there is no safe way to ride on Pine Avenue. But yet we're trying to encourage our children to be independent and 3 years later, we're finally well. Another thing that's come up is 20 feet from a crosswalk.
Daylighting.
It's red. And so there's an app that you can actually put on your phone, and I've contacted the city right now, which allows the children to cross safely on crosswalks without the car being parked. So that's another thing that I think should be watching for, whether you're in your car or walking, is all sidewalks should be painted. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's some daylighting is the law you're talking about.
So the city's great if you have this app. If you have this app, I would encourage you because the city does come right out. Unfortunately, they said they're backed up, and so they're kind of marking it, but not, you know, painting it. But again, I think this is more a city situation with our council. You know, thank you for being here. School district. I understand the kids moving and so forth. It just starts at home. And I'll give you one example. So about 3 weeks ago, I was driving from Monterey, 4 boys, one I recognized underneath the tunnel on their electric bike.
Oh, yeah.
And
I've
it's
seen that too.
posted. So I knew where these boys were. I followed him. He was on the TV. Like someone talked about. And I said, you know, that was illegal what you did. And it took me about 40 miles an hour to get that from Monterey. One of the boys gave me a false name. And I drove straight to TV and went in and they did wheelies all the way down Pine. And so an officer called me and said, you know who they are. So it's kind of frustrating, and having my, you know, my 9-year-old in the car observing this as well was not a good thing. So and it really does start at home. And I think, like with truancy, the parents have to go to court with truancy. And these parents need to be brought in when any calls are made about it. So
Yeah, it's a great.
it's not all.
It's a great comment. I don't disagree agree with anything you said, Debbie. And, you know, I think the diversion, again, if this ordinance goes through, I think that diversionary piece to require the parents to go through with their kids, the educational component, if they want first fine waived, I think that kind of speaks to your point. And we are as frustrated as everybody else. You're absolutely right. It is a community problem. We get complaints down at Lighthouse. We get complaints all over the city. You know, people that, you know, quite frankly, are fearful, you know, because we've had a lot of what I would call stunt type behavior going on where, you know, and really we're speaking to that in the ordinance, you know, this isn't Back to the Future hanging on the back of cars and towing other kids, and like this isn't the X Games, right? So not here in PG. So we're
For the folks at home, that was former city council member Debbie Beck, just imploring residents to interact with, not that. But really interact with the city to kind of start affecting this change and calling upon everybody in this room and everybody in PG to kind of stand up and do something about it. We have a question in the back.
Learning, for kids, but you're not talking to the students, you're talking about
So the question is wondering what kind of student education is going to occur. So I think I can take part of that. As I mentioned earlier, and I'm not sure everybody online heard, we are working with Santa Cruz County to have some folks come over and do 2 days worth of bike safety with all of our PE classes. So that's one component that you guys will get actual face-to-face education. Something I wrote down in my notes earlier, especially in regards to the comments on sidewalks, and some of the stuff that our students don't necessarily know. We are blessed to have an advisory period every Monday. And so that's 40 minutes of time that we use for whatever we think is an important issue for our students to know. And I would certainly count this as an important information for our students to know. So I can interact with our student teams or our teacher teams who write those lessons. I'd love to convo with you as well, and really kind of run our entire school through what it means to be safe, not only as the person that's riding an e-bike without a helmet, but just somebody walking down the sidewalk, what they can expect. Okay. Good question, Briggs.
And I think any forums, anytime that, you know, we can get in front of the students in the assembly, like, you know, the bazaar and just different new things that we're doing actually does speak to the students' question back there. Which reminds me a lot of my daughter. And so I appreciate the directness, but yeah, I mean, this forum to answer that question is really for, you know, the audience that is present today. So we're having a conversation with parents, with concerned adults, but, you know, as far as the education, I mean, there is plenty of platforms that are online for students if they want to take their own initiative to learn about e-bike safety or bicycle safety or whatever they want to learn about. And most of these platforms are free.
That's a really good question. You've got, how much longer do you have? I don't want to keep you here.
I am here for you guys until you're done.
Wow, here we go.
I'm new to the area and I love like Pick Pacific Road for the walkability.
Yep.
But I know this might ruffle feathers, but I felt safer walking around most of San Francisco because people speed and they don't stop, and you have all these two-way stop signs, and it's actually really dangerous to walk around. And I'm sending my 6th grader up, and it's foggy, and he has to cross some of these crosswalks where there are no stop signs. It's the safe route. I just want to know, as a new community member, how I can advocate, because 10 years is too long. Our kids need safe routes to school, and stop signs, I know, inconvenience drivers, but just having some route where pedestrians can choose that route because they know there's 4-way stops at every intersection. Like, it's crazy to me that our downtown does not have stop signs. Like, that is wild. So how do I, as a new community member, show up, you know, and and help to make it safer for my kids to be here?
Yeah, I think, really the question is how you can get your concerns to city.
Yeah.
So, first off is just understanding, I do business more like a small town sheriff in the 1800s than a modern day police chief. My door is open. I meet with members of the public to address their concerns. You call, make an appointment. I'm going to sit down with you in my office or talk to you out front or wherever, maybe meet you for a cup of coffee to discuss your concerns. So that is definitely in my wheelhouse. But also, I brought it up. Debbie also talked about traffic safety, being able to, send an email with your concerns and get that on the record. So, that we are able to actually methodically and categorically address these different issues and different, I guess you could call them hotspots, right? Or problems within the community. And I cannot speak, nor will I think Debbie has the history here to what went on over the last 10 years with safe routes. But I can tell you that quite a bit of work has been done since the school year began through collaboration with the district and the city. And so looking at mapping, looking at different opportunities to build out, identify those kind of arterial areas that are safer for the students to walk and ride their bicycles to school. So I would, I'm very, very confident that we have already made kind of significant push towards safe routes. I agree with you on downtown. I feel like, especially on Lighthouse, 15 miles per hour might even be too fast. With the way that parking is set up down there, I mean, I creep at about 8 miles an hour because people pop out from those cars and you can't see them. And it's right there at the last minute, or you're turning a corner and somebody's starting through the crosswalk. It can be very challenging down there, especially when parking is dense and there is a lot of foot traffic down there. So, yeah, I totally agree. Picking up what you're laying down, but I think starting to address your concerns either through, an open dialogue with either myself or a member of the police department or traffic safety.
I think if there's a theme in this conversation, it is really that there's a community call to action, that we're working with families, but also relying upon families to make themselves seen and heard during city council meetings, during all these subcommittees and stuff.
Yeah.
Be involved, you guys, and not just the folks in this room and the folks online, but interact with your neighbors, interact with people that you know. We're going to archive this. I want you to let people know who didn't make it today to view it online and learn this really good information. Just empower us as a community to take control of this stuff. Otherwise, we can complain about it, but nothing changes. So please do that.
And to that note, some folks just aren't comfortable, coming to public comment. We all come from different backgrounds and have our different anxieties, and some people just don't really enjoy the public speaking aspect. So remember, especially with the city council meetings, you can make your public comment online. You can do it remotely. But the more input that we have as a community and the more information, the better off we are.
If they don't hear it, they might not.
And whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But don't do
Well, I mean, the consequence of that is enforcement, right? And, so like I said, just being on the level and being transparent, there's no way the police department, I don't care if I have the staffing of LAPD. We're never going to cover 100% of the violations of TAP. That's just not, it's not a reasonable expectation. Being proactive, in the fact that, again, we write citations 4-1 compared to some of our neighboring communities. So we're out there, we're doing the work. We're just not ever going to get 100% of those violations. That recidivism or that repeat behavior just makes the odds of being, having a contact with law enforcement increase. And so, I'm a big believer in natural consequences, and at some point that contact is going to happen. Where the community can help us kind of bridge that gap and narrow that timeline is by calling in on the non-emergency line, and just don't get frustrated. Like, I know, and I've heard that and I understand it as a parent, stepping out of my chief boots and being a parent and a community member, I understand that frustration. But when we get the call about a certain type of behavior, whether it's e-bikes, whether it's speeding, whether it's trespass, whatever it is, somebody under the influence in a certain area, that is that community-centric relationship piece that actually helps us address the issue. And so I would encourage everybody to, not get frustrated at the first, call for service that you make. Maybe it doesn't get addressed, or we get there and the person is gone. Continued behavior and continuing to call and let us know what you're observing is the key to decreasing that timeline and actually dealing with the problematic people and areas in the community.
Is there any way, as part of like registering, you can't get into it. I mean, really, if they're anonymous, they're out there driving, even if they do have a helmet on and they're top of wheelies down Forest Avenue, there's that sense of I'm invisible and no one knows who I am.
Sure.
And there's some sort of like yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
So it's a great comment, and actually a concept that I've been exploring over the last couple of months and kind of authoring this ordinance. And so one of the ideas was similar to what you're talking about. The other was a partnership with the district as far as students having to show, the administrative office or the principal's office that they had attended some sort of e-bike safety certification course, and then having, the equipment mark with a sticker or some sort of, thing that represents, this is permitted. We've acknowledged that the student and the parents have gone through this educational course, or just making that a part of the ordinance that is city required. So again, when this thing goes to council for a discussion item, I think it's the 15th of October, please bring those kind of ideas up, because what we're really looking for is the ordinance to serve the community as best as we can. And so any type of input like that you think would be helpful, we want to hear about it.
This gentleman, that is.
I think some of these items sound like might already be in the draft ordinance, so I'm going to check that out. But I have kind of a different angle to the Debbie had, which is I appreciate this is multifaceted. You're intervening on the infrastructure, drivers, on the students. There's an education component, there's an enforcement component, but we are sitting here in the school, and my concern is sort of that if the education part is happening at the school and the enforcement part is happening off campus by the PD, my concern is about how to do behavior modification for middle schoolers and high schoolers. As a grown-up, if I get pulled over or I get a ticket, that's going to have an impact on my decision making for a foreseeable period of time. I don't know that that matters all that much to a 12-year-old, especially if they're not paying the fine. Whereas if a lot of the performance is trying to be cool, block from school, and show off to people, and they might or might not get cited. If that bike is not impounded, then they're coming and they're parking it here. They get to keep doing that. And then by having it parked here, they're going to be in school. So what, if any, are the ways that the schools and the district can partner and reinforce on the behavioral side? Are there any potential, citation, but are there enforcement things that the schools could do to reinforce this and not just have the schools around the education, all the enforcement's happening off the campus?
Can I write tickets? So for online folks, we had a comment/question regarding the kind of isolation between the school doing the educational component and PD doing the more punitive component, and how to kind of link them a little bit closer together, right?
Yeah, because anything that can happen enforcement wise on campus with peers might have more resonance or decision making by minors than some police.
Chris, you wanted to comment?
You know, because I'm here a lot, making a couple of work you guys already. I think that that's great, like the education, but even more, like, I think just having them pass, like you said, there's gonna be education, right? So if you wanna ride your bike to school, and wanna walk your bike here, maybe you have to go through this training. And if you don't do that training and are aware of all the things, you can not park your bike here in school. You need like a sticker that you went to this class maybe, or, you know, something that it makes it, like there's a consequence to your act. Like, we are not going to store your bike if you're not being responsible in our property of the school.
It's a great
I
suggestion.
mean,
Great suggestion. So
like just
And
any
with
motorized
registration,
or any.
the parents have to produce whatever certificate is issued.
What kind of code of conduct for riding your bike to school?
Yeah, because also remember that as far as statute, there's no difference between type 1, type 2 e-bikes and regular bicycles.
Correct, so that is like. And it's not gonna work if you approach it. You know, it's not like this. Even like you can teach them all you want, and all the videos that you want. If there is not a consequence that is immediate and that you can see it, there's not gonna be that.
okay, so that was just a comment regarding consequences for students who may be, getting ticketed on their way to and from home, and then how that would affect their ability to use their bikes to get to school and back. Much like a lot of places in the United States, we're playing catch up with this. And so I don't, to my knowledge, and I'm pretty certain of this, we don't have any board policy or rec that deals specifically with e-bikes and almost a licensure of using these bikes to and from campus. It's something that we can explore as a management group, because I think it's a really good topic. And that would kind of, get us a little bit more on the same page. And it's definitely a topic for conversation. It is not something that we can presently do right now. So like I said, I think we should discuss this as a management group. Yes, Dr. Adams.
You know, just a comment that I want to say our board has, you know, is very motivated. Came up every week again. A lot of that takes good. I think the route that we're wanting to take is we work with the city, you know, passing ordinances, something that does not become take these initial steps, take education. And if it comes, you know, around that would help, you know, reinforce and do what we do, and that would actually translate it. I just want to add to the say, I was putting in my position here with the district. I have not collaborated with the city about actually doing as much as we have in the last, you know, 6 weeks. I feel like I have more meetings, discussions, that have been collaborative. For 2 years. You know, I share that with all of you just because, or, you know, I think actively collaborating on the all types of presentation, I actually really see positive outcomes here. This was happening here at the middle school. These same meetings are going to be happening every one of our school sites. We've got our district safety committee next week. So just caring from all of you and helping guide our direction, our next steps as well. Great ideas forward. I'm definitely carrying that sense of, you know, what can we as a district do and work with PD to enforce and ensure that students know that, you know, they're not riding around anonymously, right? We are an incredibly, you know, community. Beauty about this is that everyone knows each other, right? And, you know, parents out there, they know, you know, the students. I think that in combination with the possibility of registering bikes, makes the students, you know, they have to pause something or show some sort of a limit in order to make sure that they know that are educated on public safety. All great things that we are absolutely motivated. Right.
If I might add just really quickly, I think it would behoove us to kind of audit neighboring districts or districts around the state of California to see what's working. We don't have to reinvent the wheel and somebody has something that's working. Let's look into it. Let's see if we can adopt it or should adopt it. This is not a problem unique to PG, y'all. This is definitely state and nationwide. I just read an article. New York City just passed a speed limit for e-bikes in the city, but they have no means to enforce it. So it's pretty much, you know, just an empty threat.
One thing, you probably still have. Like again, like let's prevent those. You know, urgently figure out what to do. Let's prevent it. Having.
And I think that's our goal here.
Yeah.
You know, I love that the chief has taken time out of his busy schedule to be here. Dr. Adams said it's going to be a traveling road show. You're going to be a busy guy. But we're really going to get that message out. It's just we need all avenues flooded at the same time. So I'm going to go back to the city council. I'm going to go back to making your voice heard and rallying your troops and getting them involved and getting their voice heard, because it's going to take all three facets for us to Mr. Tabani.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning. I guess it's morning. I've been here a while. I'm the assistant here. I've invested quite a bit of time this year already in speaking with families who are riding the bike without their helmets and doubling up the street, wheeling down the street. It's all happening. You're right. It's a small number of kids. But I want to push back a little bit on the idea that this is a school problem to solve with school resources. I'm just wondering, like, who's checking bikes at the bike cage when we don't have a teacher in room 29, right? We are an educational institution and can pass messages on to kids relatively easily. That is our job. That is our priority. That's it. I don't want to get involved in the enforcement as much as I am passionate about it, as many of I come from a history of a major injury up in Scotts Valley to a person's head that led to that whole community rallying around that moment, buying helmets for every kid after they were donated by the helmet manufacturers. And then people were out checking how tight those straps were on. And from that day forward, the Scotts Valley PD started enforcing tickets, low-level tickets, $30 ticket for everybody not wearing a helmet. You should have seen what happened in that community. To this day, if you drive through, you'll see every kid wearing a helmet. So I feel like there's a tipping point. That was with a death, a very public death. I hope our tipping point here is less than that, to where we start doing some of the things. Like, honestly, you can come into this library at 3 o'clock, look out the window and watch where the kids are going and what they're doing on their bike. You can stand out front, do it too. There's not a lot of kids. I don't think we need a whole school, you know, bike safety thing, even though we're going to do that, because it's a small number of kids, fish in a barrel, as was mentioned. And I'm calling these parents. They are very receptive. I'm getting off the phone feeling like I'm changing the world. And then the next day I see the kid with the bike and his helmet tucked into the bike somewhere, right? Same kid. That's kind of where I'm at with my communication with parents. Is like, I think as a dad, I have a couple e-bikes. My kids ride them. Their range expands. Their range expands to all of PG, right? That's great for a parent because now they don't have to drive as much, right? We're getting down to some of the root causes of why e-bikes are popping up so much, right? And so that's an education part for the parent. And so I appreciate all of you that are here. You're not the ones I'm calling, right? I hope, right? Anyway, just wanted to say that I hope that the enforcement part can stay off campus and the school can be the education part.
I don't know if you guys online caught that. It was how can I succinctly put this? It was a suggestion to keep the enforcement part with law enforcement and the educational part with us.
I feel like that works great when our police versus current not. If you drive on that, the road that way here. Someone right, nobody has helmets on, and nothing's been done at that intersection. So we talk about kids needing to walk on sidewalks, that whole sidewalk on that side. Because landscaping from houses has encroached all over it, which in normal neighborhoods would not be allowed, but somehow it's allowed there. And there really should be a four-way stop sign there. Stop the oncoming traffic, because if we're coming down Hillcrest, we can't see bikes that are coming one way or another. So we did have that, which should have been the tipping point, but nothing's changed. So, Tracy,
Yes, ma'am.
I feel like we as parents need to create a committee where we're speaking together and organizing our thoughts and going as a group, because I think one person going to the traffic committee is not going to do the service that we need to do. Whereas if we walk in with 15 people, we all have the same message to share. That gets them more trust.
Well, you have powers and numbers.
So for those of you at home, it's a call to action and specifically to visit the traffic commission for certain blocked areas around town, specifically the area where the students struck.
I did email the traffic when we had here, Mark, but I never heard that. And I never saw it from there. We have a public post, we see on the page. I think that's the thing. So what I do, I was really happy to. Even based off, I emailed them. I haven't heard that. I emailed them with the, I want to be on their agenda. Okay.
And that was the city manager, Debbie, that you would
I
copy the city manager. So that's just a suggestion. If you contact the traffic commission to copy the city manager to make sure you get a response.
I'll say, this will be a top project. Out of town for that resource outside.
Any other questions before we wrap? Seeing none. Okay. Well, listen, I would like everybody, you know what, give it up for our chief. Thank you so much for your time, your very thoughtful answers, and the glimmer of hope I think that we're all kind of leaving here with. And I would like to thank folks here and folks at home. We're going to be archiving this. I will be sending the link out as soon as I can. So if you weren't here for this, you'll be able to view it in its entirety. But more to come, you guys. Check your emails. Go to a city council meeting. It's going to be fun. And on the way out, grab some food. Chief, any last words before we?
I want to echo kudos. Sean, thank you very much for the platform and the forum this morning, to Dr. Adamson and her staff district. Just for being here as a invested member of the community. It means a lot to me. I hope my being here was meaningful. And so, like I said, again, I do business more like a sheriff in the 1800s. Come see me if you want to have a conversation. I'm always up for it, especially if there's coffee.
All right. Thanks very much, guys. Take care.